We must stop the terror. Now watch this drive.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
Welcome to another episode of the Uncle Hack Podcast. Glad you're here with us. Oh boy. We are covering it all as what we are supposed to do with, the podcasting sphere infiltrated by Russians. I'm still awaiting my check, unfortunately, which is why I need to promote these dates. Coming up, we have this weekend, we are September 26th, Comox, British Columbia, September 27th, Victoria, BC, October 5th, Chicago, Illinois, October 12th, Fort St. John, British Columbia, October 25th, Red Deer, Alberta, October 26th, Wetaskiwin, Alberta, November 1st and 2nd in Fort Worth, Texas, November 3rd in San Antonio, Texas, November 7th, Fox Creek, Alberta, November 8th, Peace River, November 9th, Grand Prairie, Alberta, November 16th, Toronto, Ontario, the 17th in Niagara Falls, Ontario, the 22nd, Medicine Hat, Alberta, the 29th and 30th in Edmonton, Alberta, December 13th, Thunder Bay, Ontario, fucking December 19th, Oxnard, California, December 31st, Castlegar, British Columbia, and January 24th in Slave Lake, Alberta. Now, head on over to dangercatshop.com to get your tickets for those upcoming dates. We'd appreciate seeing many of you out there catching a show, seeing what it's all about. Also, if you enjoy the podcast, best way to support the pod is head on over to patreon.com/dangercats69. And for the cost of a beer a month, you can support a what mainstream media is deeming a extremist podcast. No, we are not that. We are not going to admit that we are that. We will allow those to clip that out of context and use it in their programming, so that way we can further our messaging. The programming of the children, which I'm intending to do. I feel like once $10 a day daycare comes into play. A lot of these daycares and childcare facilities, I assume, are going to go under, because what business can actually operate on? I imagine the subsidies that are going to be flooding in to the $10 a day daycare will be astronomical, which will be great. And we need to applaud this, okay? The kids need to be in the daycare as early as possible so the indoctrination can start and we can all be on the same page here. We're 30, 40 years away from wiping out any sort of ideologies that do not align with anybody in the education system. So might as well get this over with earlier. But the way to fight that, see, what I think, I am going off today. A lot of fast talking. I get that. What's he on? Cocaine again? No. Just some of that lion's mane. I'm taking lion's mane now to make sure my brain is sharp, so that way I can argue with myself live on air for you. But here's what I think. This is what's going to happen, and this is how we take over, folks, is a lot of these daycare and childcare facilities are going to go under. How can you sustain a business, on $10 per kid? This is where we come in. We run a facility where it is financially viable to do so, and we'll do other things like we'll have the kids making crafts and we'll sell them on black markets. We can. I don't want to get into any child exploitation in a sexual manner, because that is just not me, baby. That is just not me. Okay? I want child labor. That's what I want. I'm not interested in this Balenciaga, hold the teddy bear, wear BDSM gear. I'm not my flavor, okay? Not my flavor. I want those kids working. So we're going to have them on pump jacks. We're going to, like all sorts of things. We need them in mines. We're going to take them out instead of like these, like the school season's in. Okay. Instead of what's going on in Toronto and taking them to protests, I'm going to be taking them out to Sparwood, British Columbia to work in the mines. $10 a day. You pay me. I exploit the children by getting them to extract minerals from the ground. I take those minerals and I sell it and I double down. And now my business is thriving. Okay. Your kids are going to be doing 14-week hitches. I'll have them for 14 days and don't worry about it. We'll feed and take care of them. Like, hey, kids all across Africa are doing it. Why can't we bring it here? Why not? Why can't the kid? They don't need to be going to protest what's happening now in Toronto, okay? The Toronto School Board is under fire right now for taking their kids to protests. And they're like, well, we thought it would be educational. And it's like, yeah, okay, we get it. Yeah, we get it. It's educational. Let's get the kids working. This is a waste of time. What are we doing here? We're teaching about they don't need a fucking hobby like protesting right now. We're talking about middle schoolers. Get them in the mines. Let's extract some minerals. The fuck are we talking about here? It's embarrassing that I have to bring this up. It's embarrassing to the nation that I am the one that has to sit here and speak about this. You shouldn't be embarrassed as a Canadian citizen right now as I'm presenting such a wonderful, grand idea of having toddlers working in the coal mines. Does that not ring a bell to you? Is that not waking you up? What do you want? You want your kid out there? Hey, ho, ho, Israel's got to go out in the streets? That seems like a total waste of time. We're not furthering ourselves financially now, are we? In fact, we're probably hurting the pocketbook because, well, if you listen to any conspiracy theorist podcasts, they seem to have a lot of cash and they are willing to. In fact, I'll work with Israel on this project. Fund me. Give me some Jew money. I'll work with you. I don't care. Despite what some of these blogs say about me being like, whatever, all these buzzwords to just like slander someone's character, I have no problem. The money is money. We don't care, okay? Once you get into the echelon of billionaire status, I don't think you're really looking at race and religion too often. We're comparing yachts. I want to compare yachts with the elites. I'm tired of arguing with retards in the streets about whether or not a fucking man is a woman and a woman is a man. I want to argue with somebody about who has the best tickets to the US Open and how do I get my hands on it. I'm tired of this shit. I don't want to be going out in the streets, and seeing 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds with signs about Palestine. I'm over it. I want to exploit people financially, not mentally. I could give a fuck. Go out there, write on your sign, scream and yell for all I give a shit. In fact, I want to be the one funding some of these dummies. Can I manipulate some of these people's minds into screaming some really outrageous things? Kind of like that, there's this protester that, a very avid protester. I'm sure we're all familiar with her on this podcast, but for those that aren't, her name is Deanna Sharif. And if you follow Kareem Assad, she's been following the court case involving her with, I don't know what she got charged with. I'm not that deep into the lore of this woman, but this lady shows up to pretty much every protest in the GTA area and even some that are surrounding that area. But that's what I mean. I want to be able to indoctrinate a woman like that and just have this psychopath out there screaming shit that I just, here's a few $100. I need you to scream at the top of your lungs that Zionists are fucking devil worshippers or some shit. Whatever I think of that day. I'm riffing here. Forgive me. But I want to be able to influence these people to do insane shit. Why can't I? $10 a day daycare. That's where we start. I start there. I start making my money. by taking the kids on quote unquote field trips to go learn about the coal mines. And meanwhile, we're running a child slave labor operation in the fucking mountains of British Columbia. And then I start rising in the ranks, and before you can do anything to criminally charge me, I'll be surrounded by, the ruling class, the business class of this country. So I'll be pretty much impossible to take down. By then, I should have a strong foothold on the members of caucus that I can change the laws to drop the labor law down to, I don't know, let's say 5. I think that's a fitting age. 5 years old, you're able to walk on your own. Why aren't you working? I'll be able to convince these morons by shaking bags of cash in front of their eyes. We'll change legislation. We'll change laws federally so that way I can bring busloads of kids out to the glorious Rocky Mountains and extract minerals. Doesn't that sound like a good life for that young kid? What would you rather? Let's get into it. Let's get into it right away. We're off to a strong school year already. It's looking great. The kids are learning somewhat.
Parents of several
here's our first article that we need to get into. And parents accuse the Toronto District School Board of putting kids in harm's way. Let's get into it. Take it away, Global News, one of our favorite reporting outlets here in the great nation of Canada. Take it away.
Toronto students say they were assured by the TDSB that their kids would be no more than observers at a large-scale rally downtown earlier this week, and now they feel lied to. Some parents say they had questions when they received a permission slip looking to bring their kids to Wednesday's Grassy Narrows.
There's our guy, Fred Hahn, ladies and gentlemen. Fred Hahn, the president of CUPE, live in the flesh, right downtown Toronto. This guy doesn't miss a protest, That's what I mean. Paid protesters. This is what government-funded organizations and unions look like downtown. Now, Freddie does some amazing work. He looks like an evil character that Disney would use in like the fucking Minion movies or whatever. This looks like a guy that would be Gru's like a villain he's in competition with, but somehow this is a guy that just would be so much better at it. This is supposed to be a representative for like teachers unions and the janitors of the school board and those that work in these types of districts. And here he is out protesting, and he doesn't miss it. He was under fire for siding with took a stance with the Palestine-Israel war going on, with a more Palestinian stance, and it caused, I'd imagine that it didn't help him by any means. Like we were talking about on the last exclusive episode, that not too many Palestinian bankers, not too many influential Palestinians other than DJ Khaled at the moment that are in influential positions of power. So taking a stance like that begins to become a little rocky, I may say, for some politicians and other board members by having a guy like Freddie out there stomping his boots. Now, this is this particular protest is more about the dumping of mercury in Grassy Narrows, poisoning the water in Ontario, in northern Ontario area, which this happened in the late 60s, early 70s. The people weren't that brilliant back then. Everything was expendable at that time. And now we're realizing the errors of our elders in those times of poisoning a lot of our water supply. Maybe dumping sewage into these water supplies wasn't a great idea. And we're cause and effect. And now the kids were told, the parents were told that, hey, We are going to bring the children down there. We're going to teach them, about this. But instead, they were used as pawns in this game, which is crazy. Do I think that water rights is an issue? 100%. I think every human being should have the right to clean water that isn't poisoned by these just evil corporations. Evil. But the representatives on the ground are guys like Fred Hahn that are very polarizing to many individuals. But anyways, onward. Enough of Fred, my favorite guy.
Some refused to allow their
Fat
kids to
Elton
go.
John.
Others allowed it, thinking it would be a controlled learning experience. The large march through downtown to Queen's Park aims to shed light on the plight of the people of Grassy Narrows and their struggles against mercury poisoning and mining and logging activities. Now, parents wondered what purpose bringing their kids to such an event served, but were assured their kids would not be taking part, simply observing the whole thing. But videos and eyewitness testimony from the event show kids marching directly on the route amongst protesters, many of whom were chanting pro-Palestinian slogans, which parents were upset by, saying it's a completely separate cause. Parents
It's a first-hand learning experience, You got to get out there. This is all you have left in this country. We speak about this ad nauseum on this podcast, that the only hobbies left in these larger centers is getting out with a sign and screaming at all these buildings where people are, I assume that most of these buildings are occupied with, businesses, and it's just kind of disrupting during the day. Like, how are there, this again, like we were talking about on the exclusive episode, that, there was this protest that took place last Friday across, it was the Million March for Kids, and it was like a dunk for some reason to be like, hey, not too many people showed up, and it's like, yeah, well, the people that care about that issue, unfortunately, you're not going to believe this, have full-time employment. So having a protest at 8 a.m. on a Friday isn't really top priority for many people. Now, as we've seen during the lockdowns, that once you remove their jobs and make it very difficult for them to go to work and make a living, it becomes very apparent that these people are able to gather in masses and have a very peaceful protest, I may add. But here we got to be like, hey, we're just taking the kids on a school trip down to, fight for the rights of what they were led to believe was for water rights in the Grassy Narrows region. But instead, the kids are screaming about Palestine. What's the problem here, parents? What's the problem? This is all they're going to have in the near future. All we're looking at is future tent owners. Let them do the arts and crafts. Let them go out there and scream. This is all we have left in Canada. This is all you have left. What are you excited for? To be a cashier at a Staples? Is that what that's what your child is excited for? Well, he's going to go to post-secondary education, and we'll see what happens there. What's he taking? Well, he doesn't quite know yet. He's a middle schooler. Shouldn't you be pounding this into his head, what you want him to be? Well, we're just going to wait and see. Well, as we're seeing, this new hobby of activism is going to overtake his life. He has what he wants to be. It's a paid protester. Unbelievable. This country makes me laugh more than ever. You have to take a step back and see the hilarity that's being produced here. Like the comedy is very apparent. It's like, hey, we're going to take the kids down and just teach them about the issues and speak with these people. And it's like, psych, we got them in there screaming that, hey, the Jews need to be exterminated. That's what we're going to have the kids screaming and yelling about in the streets. I hope you don't mind. Unbelievable. This country fascinates me. And then yet we have the audacity to take a step back and be like, listen, the school system is not indoctrinating children. What the fuck are you talking about? This is like the most influential years of their lives. See, this is where having a child like myself is very, very crucial in this era, you know? See, me, I didn't find much interest in school. And it shows today. It really does show today. My interests were very simple back then. I just wanted to skateboard and play hockey. That's it. Two things where I would like, you know, one is part of an organization, but the other during the summertime, I just wanted to be left alone and ride a piece of wood and talk about everybody else that's riding pieces of wood. Very simplistic mind, and I never was politically involved. I could give a shit. History was kind of cool to me, so I'd kind of pay attention there. Kinda, okay? And I say that very loosely. It was like, okay, I remember learning about the Cold War through the 72 Summit series. That's how they had to ignite any excitement in our stupid brains in the school system. You know, I wasn't a thriving student by any means. No valedictorian over here. I don't even know if I said that word right. That's what I'm saying. But this is what we're dealing with now. And keep in mind, I'm also from a small town in southern Alberta. Not too many protests happening downtown Tabor, Alberta, to go and take part of. Is there some happening now? During lockdowns, there was, where they had some individuals standing there on one of the main drags with signs, and they'd gather every Saturday asking to end the mandate. And they did what they felt was necessary, and that's great. I'm glad that we can all get out and feel like our voices are heard. But this right here is the last hobby left in this country. So you got to participate where you can. You know, me, on the other hand, I'm finding other ways. Like I said, I'm going to be exploiting child labor in this country like it's never been seen before. You think the argument that takes place in caucus of over like, oh, well, how young can the kids be if they want to work at a Tim Hortons? We're not even going to worry about that. Out of the womb, I want them knitting. I want them knitting quilts that I can sell on Etsy. And you know what? I don't even care what the messaging is on it. It can be pro-Palestine, pro-Israel. I don't care. Are you buying? We'll make it. I don't give a shit. Well, also whatever the fuck is there. What's in demand? What's in demand? What's the hot topic? I don't care. I'm going to make money off of it because I want to retire on an island away from people that are in the streets like this right there. And I'm going to exploit all of them. All of them. Every last penny that you have, I want to extract it so I can own an island well away from this country. And if you think that I'm going to be doing things like that Epstein Island, you're out of your mind. Do you think after I've exploited these children for labor, do you think I want them on the island? I need to be away from them. Obviously, they're going to want my head on a fucking stake. I need to seclude myself from the rest of society. That's the problem with these billionaires now, is they still want to be involved. Exploit the people, leave and never be found. No electronic devices. Nobody knows where you are. Just hang out. Hang the fuck out. Be away from it all. But instead, they want to just keep sinking their fingertips in the honey pot. Grab what you need, get the hell out. And that's what I plan on doing, you know? Keep it very simple. And I know I probably lost a lot of people on this podcast, but let me be very clear. If you don't understand the sarcasm that I'm using right now, then I implore you to drive on the opposite side of the highway. Don't use the maids program. Don't use it. Have some pride. Why don't you? Who lets the government kill them? You know? Do what everybody else does in this country and allow corporations to feed you poisoned food and die with some honor from Diabetes. Who goes to the doctor and gets an injection from a government ran program. Are you okay? Is that what you want with your life? Go die with some honor. Okay? Get some fucking disease that could have been avoided from just having a healthy diet and die slowly like the rest of us. Allow it to take cancer. Let cancer take your life, and don't cop out with this MAID program. I just don't get that.
Whose kids were at the river run do not want to speak on camera today, but other TDSB parent advocates say this whole situation was badly handled.
The school board has one responsibility to its students, and that is of safety and inclusion. And both of those things did not happen by taking the kids down to this rally. So it let down the students and it let down the community. And I just think we need better accountability.
The TDSB, for its part, issued a release apologizing, saying that they were going to look into it. And the province's education minister says she expects the board to do a full review. Mark Carcassol, Global News.
A full review. Well, the public is already reviewing this, and there has been some very interesting findings. This is very, 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 very crucial to this report. So here we have students attending protest. And is this another one? I believe this is a different one. Middle school students forced to take part in a political protest this week were allegedly asked by teachers to wear blue shirts in order to identify them as settlers and colonizers. That's great. The school system is really thriving right now. The 2024 season is really shaping up in the education sector of the great nation of Canada. Family members and officials are speaking out after it was revealed this week that several Toronto District School Board middle schools sent grade 7 and 8 students on a field trip to take part in a downtown Toronto political protest. Students were ostensibly meant to observe the protest. I don't think I said that word right. I've never. Keep in mind, like I said, I wasn't a very very good student, okay? We like to keep our words down to at least 5 letters or below. The protest supporting the Grassy Narrows First Nation and their decades-old water crisis, but the demonstration quickly morphed into an anti-Israel rally. That's, you know, at this point, like, you gotta just kind of say, like, God, like, the natives just get used for these protests. They're like, hey, the water. And they're like, well, I think that we're probably going to go with anti-Israel today. They're like, whoa, what about the water? The water. And it's like, no. See, those guys, they're louder and much crazier. We're just going to allow them to overtake this protest. What if we say that we all just do this together? And it's like, well, we just want, like, water. The water has been poisoned. Yeah, but there's an unjust genocide that's taking place in the Gaza Strip right now that we feel is just a little bit more important than your issue. You know, it is sad. Let's be honest. It is sad that that a protest like this that's asking. It's asking of just, hey, can we take a look into this? It's decades. There's mercury in the water. They dumped poison in the H2O. Can we just take a little glance at it? And then all these psychopaths decide to just kind of interject themselves into this rally and make it, yeah, well, we seen what you were doing and we thought we could enhance it. Which is nuts. Let them, like, join them in solidarity with their issue and go do your own whenever you need or whenever you please. With the organizers and students seen on video waving fucking signs and chanting anti-Israel slogans. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Let's take a look at the tweet. What do we got for a tweet here? On the permission slip, it said, okay, departure times. Now, where is this? Why are they saying? I apologize for good afternoon, parents and guardians. I am writing to provide you with important details about our upcoming field trip tomorrow. Our students will be attending the Grassy Narrows River Run, a community event in support of the Grassy Narrows First Nations, which will take place at Gage Park. This event aims to raise awareness about the community's efforts to address mercury contamination and advocate for their rights regarding mining and logging activities within their territory. Departure time. We will be leaving at 10:30 and heading downtown to Gage Park. Purpose. This field trip is an educational opportunity for our students to learn about Indigenous activism, environmental justice, and human rights. This is the highlighted part, folks, while at the event, students will not be participating in the rally itself. Instead, they will observe and learn from the presentations and discussions, what to expect, the day's activities led by Indigenous community members from Grassy. Okay, that's where it ends. Okay, well, that didn't work out so well. Now, did it? This reminds me of a time, you know what this kind of reminds me of is like my uncle. I found this story hilarious. My uncle one time, he was in charge of picking up myself, my cousin, and a friend of ours from school one time. And this, if it isn't known now that I came from a white trash family, it's going to be very apparent today. My background, I can't hide my past, you know. I grew up white trash, redneck, small town Alberta. I recognize it and I embrace it, as many of us should. We should not be ashamed of ourselves, you know. It's simply even like students being told to wear something that says colonizer on it. That seems a bit much, doesn't it? Seems a bit like something that took place in the 40s to a particular group of people now, doesn't it? Aren't we labeling people now? Now we can come together in solidarity and educate one another of each other's history, and I don't see a problem in that one bit. But now to like almost shame these students into feeling as if like they participated in what took place in the past just by simply existing in the future seems a bit, I don't know, sinister. Like, we can learn about what's taking place inside the school, can't we? We can bring somebody to the school instead of bringing these kids to downtown, which downtown Toronto, I can't imagine is the safest place on the planet, you know? Boy, every time I go down there, it's riddled with screaming addicts. The crime is through the roof. It's very dangerous, you know? For one, I don't know how many volunteers or student faculty were on the trip to ensure the safety of the children, but this seems like a bit irresponsible then to allow them to participate in the fucking protest, doesn't it? And I can see the concerns with the parents. They should be concerned. This is your child's education, and instead they're like, hey, we got to get you in activism. You know, we need you being an activist, which is like, this is where a lot of people are led to believe that the education system has been hijacked and it's producing just activists, you know, like that the importance of the actual education itself is disregarded. And now the aims to indoctrinate the kids into thinking a certain way is very apparent. What's the purpose of this? You know, what's the purpose of taking children downtown to have them participate in a fucking protest? Really? Aren't these the same people as well that were saying that it's very disturbing that the trucker protest is using kids as almost a shield? Isn't this what they're doing? The same thing that they were against, and that was parents. That was parents. These are like, you had your kids with you at the Ottawa trial. This is a fucking education board member taking kids down there. Unbelievable. But we have another piece. So
Are you ready to try that one more time? You guys are just going to repeat after me. From Turtle Island to Palestine! Turtle Island to Palestine!
This poor girl. I know, like this. Look at this. She's like, you brought us downtown for this shit. God bless this child right here. Like, I am not interested in this at all. The other one's like, hey, come on, let's just have some fun. We're down here anyways. Have a smile on her face. This would be, you know, I hate to say it, regardless of what the protest would be, I'd be pissed too. I could have stayed home. I could have faked sick, been at grandma's house watching reruns of Maury. You understand me? Now I'm down here with psychopaths screaming fucking nonsense that I don't give a shit about. I could care less. The look on this fucking... Oh, man, that's hilarious. The child, one smiling. I assume that these two are friends if they're hanging out. Arms are crossed. She has a frown on her face that looks like, Jesus Christ almighty, I don't want to fucking be here. The last place on earth I want to be. Now, I'm not going to sit here and make fun of a child. These are children, okay? I just, like I said earlier in the episode, I'm looking to exploit them with labor. That's it. That's all. Okay? We're not going to make fun of them. What good is making fun of them? You know, you're not extracting minerals from my fucking wealth. What are we doing here? Hilarious.
No justice! No peace! No racist! No racist! Big round of applause for yourselves.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. This is the Toronto School Board District really pumping out some good stuff for us today, and we appreciate that. Give them a round of applause. Well done. Well done. Well done. You know, without your hard work, we would have nothing to talk about. So we want to applaud you on this show. Another disturbing thing that came out about this is so the elementary teachers of Toronto. Here we go. One of Mona's cousin's classmates, whose family recently immigrated to Canada from India. Okay, hold on. Mona, the cousin of one of the students compelled to take part, told the Toronto Sun the grade 8 student was instructed to wear a blue shirt to identify her as a colonizer. She was very upset, Mona said to her, said of her cousin, who is Jewish, and approached her teacher at the rally to express her discomfort. And once the Israel chants began, the teacher told her, "You'll get over it." Once the anti-Israel chants began, the teacher told her, "You'll get over it." Oh, that's wonderful, isn't it? One of Mona's cousin's classmates, whose family recently immigrated to Canada from India, a nation that endured centuries of colonial rule, reportedly asked her teacher to stop referring to him as a colonizer. This is wonderful. And this is where it gets very interesting, because one of the individuals that this gentleman right here, his name is hold on, let me find that before we get into this. His name is Nigel Bariff. He is the vice president of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which, you know, they do some of the greatest reporting we've ever seen in this country. You know, of all the organizations that are funded by the Canadian government, they are clearly the best. They know what they're doing. You know, they know what they're doing. And we are huge advocates of their, you know, and I'd hate to come out and, you know what, we'll be talking about Tenet Media here right away, and the cherry on top for the end of the episode. But this is the fun part, is here he is taking a selfie, leading the charge of the kids in the protest. Well done, Nigel. This is the type of boots on the ground education that you need to give these students. It's deeply disturbing that none of you are on team me right now. And I know I just went on a rant saying that this is disturbing that you know, teachers are doing this to their children, but look at the smiles on the kids' faces. Look at this young woman in the back here. She's pissed that she's got to walk through the streets of Toronto right now. The teachers are ecstatic. We're finally out of the classroom. Oh God, we're only 2-3 weeks into the school year, and I need a vacation. The kids are losing their mind. If they don't have a cell phone in their hands, I can't control them. And this was a great way to get them out in the wonderful streets, I may add, of the wonderful and thriving city of Toronto under the rule of Mayor Olivia Chow, who's doing a phenomenal job with activism herself as well. We've seen the many costumes that she's able to wear. One of my favorite influencers that is in a form of that is in a political position in this country. We're having a wonderful time watching her thrive as an influencer, but this gentleman right here, who is not only a part of the Toronto District School Board, but is also the vice president of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, took it upon himself to get these kids out in the streets and start some activism. What else are you going to do with your future? It's very grim, okay? It's very, very grim in this country. What are you supposed to do with your free time? You're going to have a lot of it. All the jobs are gone. You can't have a job when you're a 16-year-old. There's too many temporary foreign workers in the country that are taking jobs that could be meant for, a 16-year-old to start their journey in the workforce. But that is not that's a talking point for politicians. We could care less. What we need to do is find these kids a hobby, and if it's not screaming fucking anti-Israel rhetoric in the streets with somebody that you could see as not only a mentor but a sitting member of the Toronto District School Board, what are you gonna do with your free time? And I know, thank you, I'm the fucking brain dead Bill Maher. This great nation. The wonderful, wonderful hobby of protesting. You've seen what they did. They have camping trips. They have camping trips on university campuses. That's what the kids need. They need survival, urban survival. Can you survive in a tent in an urban setting riddled with crime without being murdered, without being robbed? And the last R word, we won't say it on this show because it's a naughty word. And it might incite some of you sick bastards to go and do that. And that's be retarded. We won't say it's a difficult time, isn't it? Media, we never did get a chance to discuss this, which I find interesting. Speaking of media and how we're operating, meet the right-wing Canadian influencers accused of collaborating with an alleged Russian propaganda scheme. Tenet Media founder Lauren Chen allegedly took funds from a pro-Moscow outlet. Allegedly, I love that word. Allegedly took funds. Social media accounts of two of Canada's most vocal far-right pundits have fallen unusually silent after the U.S. officials accused them of being collaborators of a covert Russian propaganda campaign. On Wednesday, the U.S. Justice Department unsealed an indictment against two Russian nationals, accusing them of setting up a conservative media outlet as a front for pro-Kremlin propaganda. The media outlet was named in the indictment, but it was clear from the details within that the charges referred to Tenet Media, founded in 2023 by the Canadian influencer known as Lauren Chen and her husband, Liam Donovan. Among the people they hired last year, was Shen's longtime friend and occasional collaborator, Lauren Southern, another Canadian far-right influencer with a massive social media following. What's going on in Canada? We send our best far-right, I guess, and I don't even like using that term, far-right influencer. We send our best down to the States where they can thrive. That's what we do. Gavin McInnes, he's Canadian, actually founder of Vice. We got Stephen Crowder, he's Canadian. We have Laura Southern, and Lauren Chen. Who else? There's like a handful of them. There's two more that I'm missing that are very prominent in the right wing, content creation, which is hilarious that, you know, for you to thrive as a right-wing influencer, you got to move to America. You know, up here, if you look at right-wing influencers up here, it's not very, like, you're like, all right, fuck. You know, you can tell that the First Amendment, once you're, and you can really grab a hold of that and use it, you understand how wonderful free speech is once you cross the border into the great nation of the United States of America. All right. Even I going down there and doing stand-up, you can notice a difference that people they understand it much better than they do up here. They can understand comedy and the application of the First Amendment when it comes to gracing that stage, while up here, we don't really... We tend to disregard the idea of what's taking place inside of a comedy club is not real. It's all fiction. It's just made up nonsense. Nobody in there is like, nobody who wants to perform on a stage doing comedy really has any motivation on trying to get the nation to its feet for some sort of revolution. In the beginning, you may think that, oh, my writing is so powerful that it's going to move people in a direction that I believe in, that I truly believe in myself. And then you get on stage and you bomb and you realize, oh, I'm just a fucking retard like the rest of them. I had in my head that I was going to be a great speaker. I was going to move these people with laughter. And then you realize, like, oh, no, I'll just fall back to the easy laughs and I'll just make fun of my dick and talk about, you know, how gay I am. I'll take the easy out just for cheap laughs. You know, many of us resort to that, and once you buy into that and you realize that, or what I was trying to get at is Canadians, when we already have a preconceived notion on going to a comedy club of what's supposed to take place there, rather than being open-minded. That's what I find as Canadians. Canadians will come to a show without researching who's performing that night, then get pissed off at the person performing because they didn't suit the needs that individual thought they should have, which is insane. You know, that'd be like me buying a ticket to Luke Bryan and being pissed off that he's not rapping tonight. You know, that'd be like me standing there after and making a complaint because what the fuck is this? This isn't stand-up comedy. I've been watching comedy for a long time. And it's like, well, you don't get to decide on what that person says or does on that stage, unfortunately. The idea, I don't know what it is with Canadians. There's this entitlement that comes, you know, where we are perceived as being nice to the rest of the world is because we're quiet. That's it. We're quiet. We don't question much. Until like, oh, well, my feelings were hurt. And it's words that hurt us most. And we're actively, the crazy thing is that we're actively watching people's lives being destroyed in front of our own eyes when we waltz down the great streets of every major city in this beautiful country. And we disregard it. And we're more upset about people speaking words about it rather than taking action and trying to assist in helping. Our idea of help is safe harm reduction sites and allowing these people to you know, fall further into addiction instead of trying to assist. Like, hey, you know, I'm not saying you should force anybody to do anything. If they want to do heroin, let them fucking shoot heroin. But I mean, like, we do it in such a condescending manner that it's kind of grotesque in the grand scheme of things. Because we have this, we take this position of like, we're all self-righteous in our own mind and we're all great people, but just because we exist in this country at times, I find. And we're like, well, I'm Canadian, you know, so fucking, we're polite. We're not. We just, we're self-centered most of the time. I believe, like, you know, some Canadians, the act of kindness is just simply, you know, doing what most people would consider doing the right thing. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just find it interesting that you feel when you come to a show that being offended, you have every right of being offended, but it's also like, where's the accountability of oneself of being upset over, whatever you just heard? I don't deliberately. Yeah, I believe here's the thing. I'll be serious for 1 second here. I believe that, if anybody wants to get into any form of performing arts, they have the right to do so. But what I don't believe, and that includes a wide array of things, I believe that you are allowed to say whatever the fuck you want. And I'm a free speech absolutist. Now, when it starts to impede on somebody's life and it becomes, you can criticize, but at what point what you're saying and doing, does it cross into the line of like you're advocating for violence against this person or you're trying to ruin their livelihoods? I'm all for saying that, okay? I'm all for, but when it comes back to you and the shit comes back to your front doorstep and you start going, well, I don't know, you kind of invited that, it's kind of, and here's what I believe with someone like let's use even myself or Rachel Gilmore's reporting. Actually, that's a prime example right there. It's like Rachel Gilmore's reporting, which I want to come out and say that just like Tenet Media was funded by the Russians, I'm funding Rachel Gilmore, okay? I'm the one behind it. I created the opposition. That's right. That's right. Bombshell of a fact to drop on you. And it probably hurts to understand that I am the one that created this mess, okay? I'm creating this mess in real time. And in doing so, I'm having a great time. Like I said, I'm exploiting all sorts of business ventures at this moment in time just to see what can get me to that island faster where I can kick my feet up, pina coladas out of fresh coconuts. I'm looking to, I'm looking to have mariachi bands there and all sorts of forms of entertainment to just slowly wither away to. But yes, I hate to admit it, but I have been the one that's funding this. You thought the Russians were bad. Wait until you start getting into domestically funded opposition. If that even makes sense, who gives a shit? I don't care. But here's what I find interesting with that side of the coin is, I'm all for criticism. I think it's necessary. I think that once you get into the grounds of like antagonizing people, that's where you gotta, even myself, like, I don't deliberately, actually, that's a lie. Fuck, what am I talking about? I've deliberately antagonized people and then it resulted in, just by making fun of a dude on TikTok resulted in him making a false claim that I fucked a 14-year-old girl at a high school party when I was like 23 years old. And which is an insane thing to say about somebody, because that right there, see, that right there is where you cross the line of like criticism to just outright slander and libel, and if you want to make fun of me, I'm all for it. And that's all I was doing, was like making fun of that individual. And it went all the way to there. And that's the extreme lengths that some people will go when they are when they're offended. And you invite that in. I invited that in. So I have to take a little bit of accountability because I don't know how that person is going to react to me making fun of them. I don't know how they're going to react. But I just found their content quite cringy. So I just figured, fuck it, I'm going to make fun of this person. And they reacted in their way and I reacted in my way, but we carried on. There's no lawsuits involved. There's a lot of false claims about me, unfortunately, and that sucks, but I'll live with it. I still, I was, anyways, but I was watching a interview with her and she was like, well, I'm scared to go in public. I got to watch over my shoulder. And it's like, well, you're deliberately antagonizing and doxing folks. So then their audience is going to feel like some form of almost obligated now to attack you on their behalf because of what you're doing to their favorite influencer. And it becomes this all fucking war online and this information war of trying to slander one another. And this leads you to a place where you're paranoid to go out in public, you know? So whose fault really is it? You have to be able to look in the mirror and say, like, is what I'm doing the right thing? And there's been moments in time where I've had to like lay down and be like, okay, that's where you made a mistake. Unfortunately, you know, that's a lesson learned. I get that, you know, you want to push your limits and try and find the funniest thing available and the funniest thing to you as well. And we're learning over time. You know, I got into this all by accident. And you look back, you should look back and see the things that you did in the past were quite cringy. You shouldn't like them, and you should evolve over time. And which I like to think that I am. You know, you should be. I'm always questioning things of like joke writing and all that, but the joy of this is I'm not walking around in public paranoid that I'm going to get my fucking teeth kicked in because I'm not deliberately trying to antagonize people online anymore. You know, I've learned my lesson and how people react to how that, you know, not everybody wants to be made fun of, unfortunately. And I'm inviting that in to be made fun of myself. And I'm willing to laugh at myself. If somebody makes a great parody of me, I'm more than willing to laugh at it. My ego is not inflated to the point where I should be untouchable. And I am telling you right now that I think that free speech is something that needs to be protected more than ever. And the second tabling of Bill C-63 hit the House of Commons yesterday, and it's very alarming that something like this is being presented to be passed into law. You know, like we're looking at the government setting up a committee that is able to imprison you for life. There's going to be a bureaucracy that overlooks everything and the crazy thing is they're doing it in the guise of protecting the children from pornography and bad content on the internet. And that's the front end of it. When you go deeper into the bill, it gets very sinister. You know, they can retroactively go after you for something that could be deemed hate speech 5, 6, 7 years ago, which could land you life imprisonment. In fact, there will be a board set up if this passes that if they feel that you might commit an offense, they can put you on house arrest. That's insane. The fines are astronomical. Something upwards of $30,000 to $50,000. $50,000. And so what does this do? Does this push this type of rhetoric more underground? Do people just get smarter with the internet? You know what I mean? They want, and the crazy thing is the conservatives are opposing this and proposing their own bill in lieu of not voting for Bill C-63. So in the future, we are looking at some form of internet censorship and monitoring by the government. And that should be concerning because, you know, it's easy to say like, well, and I was watching them debate it in the House of Commons, and the Liberal MP that was presenting his case was constantly, so you're against children this, and that's what they're going to use this as in the guise of protecting children to push through probably one of the most insane bills that will be put into law that anything retroactively, all this stuff that we're posting, the exchange of ideas. Well, already a lot of people are very fearful of speaking their mind due to the backlash that comes with it. We've witnessed people get labeled racists, bigots, you know, the list of slander that comes when you speak your mind online and trying to bully you into silence. But I'm saying if we're not going to use our freedom of expression, are we going to lose this freedom of expression by not standing against a lot of this? I don't think, like, regardless of how you vote, how you look, how you are sexually, racially, religiously, it should not matter. You should exercise your right of your freedom of expression, or else eventually you're going to lose it because you shouldn't be bullied into thinking in a different way. We've seen that just recently with that MP here in Alberta from Lacombe, where it was like forcibly pressed upon her to admit that trans women are women. And if you don't believe that, that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to believe that. If you believe it, you're allowed to. That's the joy of freedom of expression in this country, but you don't get to forcibly bully somebody into thinking like you. And you don't get to just remove them from society, because what are you doing? You're pushing them into darker corners. And that's what we're seeing, I think, right now, which is very alarming. And I think that we need to wake up to the idea of this, that the extreme left here is now doxing. They're going online and bullying people into submission or silence, essentially, or pushing them to even further lengths of extremism on the right. And now you have these two groups that are creating this animosity between a lot of people through this almost, I want to say, forced indoctrination into believing one thing or the other, which we need to exercise our exchange of ideas so that way we can further progress. But now we are regressing, because if you think a certain way, then the people over on the left then demonize you as a horrible human being for thinking in a certain way. You're doxxed through the media for speaking out. These people then attack your place of work, your businesses. They write reviews on you. They contact your family members in some circumstances, friends. They try and exile you out of friend groups for, speaking about something that's concerning to you. And I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. And then once they got a taste, they got a taste of it for a minute there when the first assassination attempt of President Trump took place. And a lot of those people were coming out, oh, he should have missed. And then people on the right were then giving the same treatment that they felt for the better half of like 8 years, I would say. 8 years this has been happening. Oh, we lost our camera, but we're going to finish this. For 8 years, this has been taking place, and now they got a taste of it, and they didn't like that. And I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right that the exchange of ideas and information should lead you to a place where you're scratching your head on how am I going to fucking survive? Because then that is where we regress as a society. And those that are staunchly for this censorship, I implore you to really deeply think about this. Because if we start flirting with the idea of hate speech being present, then you need to look at how you've been speaking in the past, especially with something like Bill C-63. And I know some folks that are really advocating for it would be bordering into hate speech due to what they say online. And so this could affect you as well. You know what I mean? So you're not thinking clearly, I don't believe, when you're advocating for this type of behavior and these types of laws to pass through the House of Commons. I don't think that you're truly thinking about this, and it'll be used against you eventually. The very thing that you advocated for could be the destruction of your own life and your own, and that's scary. That's scary. And that's something that I think that we all need to come together on. And like, we need to break this barrier. It's like we're living in East-West Germany right now. We need to break down the wall in Berlin and have the left and the right exchanging and talking to one another instead of just being like, well, if you don't think this, I'm not discussing it. Now you just exist in an echo chamber. And I'm seeing like right-wing spaces that are more willing to speak with those on the other side than the other side is willing to speak with them, which shows a clear message of that. This is what you're up against. There is no discussion to be had. And that's sad. I wish people could come together, similar to like our comedy shows. I would just like people to come together and have a laugh. There is no agenda behind our stand-up. There is no, we're not looking to incite any sort of revolution by any means. None of us are. Our sense of humor is our sense of humor, and other people, they laugh at similar things, and that's it. There's no hate speech that's taking place. The purpose of what we are doing is to incite laughter. That is it. That is it. And the scary thing is, this just like, you know what? We got no video. Tune in. Hey, check out the Uncle Hack podcast exclusive episode. We'll talk further a little bit more about this. And we will see you next week, Thursday at 3 p.m. And we appreciate you being here. Just one last time, if you want to support the podcast, please check out patreon.com/dangercat69. And for a beer a month, you can support the wonderful podcast that I produce weekly. Thank you. See you next week. Good night, everybody.